Welcome to Creative Caregiving and Beyond. More and more people are having to become caregivers for their elderly loved ones, and navigating this journey can be really difficult. This podcast will provide guidance and give practical tips for your family. Your host is Wendy Whiteman, elder law attorney, author, speaker, and leading insight advisor in senior protocol and senior lifestyle trends. Know that you are not alone in getting the help that you need. Let's get started. And here's Wendy.
Welcome to the show. Like many of you, I have caregiving responsibilities for my mother. And today I want to bring information that I think will be helpful for you along your journey. We have a special guest. Her name is Melissa Taylor, and she's a sales director at the Preston of Park Cities. Melissa, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Wendy.
Melissa, can you tell us a little bit about your neighborhoods? I was reading the brochure, and I didn't know if I was reading the brochure about a 5-star resort that I could book a vacation to or a residential community. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
It really is. So when I walked in the front doors to interview for the job, I was blown away. I had never seen anything like it. So the Preston, we are an assisted living with memory care. We've recently introduced an active living option, but it's right in the heart of Park Cities. We're just west of the Preston Center, right in the Preston Hollow University Park City area.
Okay, very good, very good. It's a great location. The building looks fabulous. You have valet parking and some great amenities. What other type of amenities do you have? I read somewhere that you actually have room service. So if a resident wanted to just have breakfast in bed on a Sunday morning or Saturday morning, they could do that. They could order from a menu.
So I think one of the most unique things about the Preston, the man who is the owner of the building, the man who built the building, is also the co-founder of the Ritz-Carlton.
Amazing.
And so he really put that whole hospitality, customer service feel in the community everywhere. So even though it's assisted living, there is care available in the building, it's so much more than that. So there is definitely just a real focus on customer service and hospitality. So you'll find valet, you'll find full service concierge, you'll find room service. Most of the dining team, they're classically trained, so they came from the Four Seasons. So everything in the building, it's not to focus on the clinical aspect of it. It's really to focus on just the quality of life and just having a really elevated quality of life when you're in this stage of life.
That's amazing. And I'm sure your residents really appreciate that. I was reading that, we've all gone through COVID and a period of hibernating, so to speak, and haven't been able to travel like we would want to. But you guys have a concept of entertainment called Engage VR.
Yes, so it's kind of a new concept. We have shared it with our residents a few times, but it's really entertaining to watch the residents take part in it. But it's just your virtual reality headset, different scenarios, and different experiences and scenes. I haven't had the opportunity to do it yet, so I can't speak from experience. But it's pretty entertaining to watch the residents take part in it.
Yeah. That's very good. I was looking at one of the testimonials online, and it was the granddaughter of one of your residents, and she lives in New York, and she said she just loves coming to see her grandmother. It sounds like you have something for all ages there.
So we've got guest suites in the community. So when family come to stay, of course, once we're out of COVID, but when I will take tours in the building, when I'll have prospective residents and their families coming to tour, if they come ever during any mealtime, half the dining room is filled with family members that are coming to eat because the food is that good. Even the first year I worked there, I brought my family there for Thanksgiving to have our Thanksgiving meal there. So it's it feels good for families to come and visit. It's a great place even for them to spend time. And then whenever, after they've visited and they're ready to leave, I think it's really special that they have such a confident feeling after they leave, when they're leaving their mom or leaving their
Yes.
husband to go, so yeah, it's certainly a place that even when family and friends come,
Mhm.
the residents can feel proud to show it off as their home.
Yes, yes, I bet they do. And there's nothing more comforting than to know that your loved one is happy and they're in a place that they're being taken care of.
Yeah.
And I did see that, yeah, of course, you guys have some signature gourmet restaurants on premises. There was a program you have called the Gourmet Bite-sized program, and I just really thought that was a unique idea. As an elder law attorney, I've been in many facilities around Texas, and I've seen the dining rooms where the portions are so large, and it's hard for the resident to navigate it, and so sometimes they won't even eat. But you have a gourmet-sized program, bite-sized program. Tell us a little bit about that.
So Gourmet Bites, it's a really cool program, and it's delicious because we've all tried it. So the concept behind it is, depending on what type of cognitive decline and even physical decline that some of the residents may face. May they have Parkinson's, different levels of Alzheimer's and dementia. Sometimes the mobility and just kind of the fine motor skills will deteriorate along with that. Something I'm really proud of, just across the community in every different department, is really keeping all of our residents' dignity intact and really honoring the person, not the disease.
Yes.
So specifically, really in memory care is where the Gourmet Bites really come into play and is used the most. So the concept is, and I'm going to use the example of what I ate. So the concept is, let's have a French toast breakfast platter.
Okay.
Or actually, I'm going to use a different example.
Okay.
A Cobb salad. Okay.
That's
Think about when you go and you're eating a Cobb salad. I mean, you need your fork. Sometimes you need your knife so that you can cut up the chicken.
Yes.
You've got to really be engaged in your salad.
That's right.
So for someone who, might have Parkinson's and who can't hold a fork, that's going to be a really challenging, they're going to be really self-conscious about eating their salad.
Yes.
So with Gourmet Bites, the concept is we really kind of grind down the food to a point where it's now in a handheld form. And I know that when I say grind down food, that's probably not the most exciting visual that you have, but even the display of the meal, it's beautiful. It's beautifully done. And so even if we have a resident here and she's sitting with a friend and she gets served the Cobb salad as a Gourmet Bite, it looks just as beautiful as her friend's Cobb salad.
Wonderful.
So it's really designed so you can continue the independence with eating as long as possible, and also keep that dignity and keep the, we don't want anybody to feel exclusive or self-conscious of their ability or disability. So it's a really cool program. I don't know of any other community that offers the Gourmet Bites. There could be. I just don't know of any.
Well, I think that's just so thoughtful, and that shows that you guys have really examined every aspect of life and daily activities. I know my mom's caregivers, they will cut up her food for her. And I didn't think about it. And they said, well, let's just cut it up. They call it Miss A. Cut it up for Miss A because it's just easy for her to navigate. And that's just so thoughtful. But it does help them maintain their independence and their dignity. That's great.
Yeah.
I also read that there is you guys have a wine sommelier.
Yes, we do.
And a pizza oven, a terrace with a pizza oven.
So with the dining, so there are 3 different restaurants in the community. We've got Sherry Lane Bistro, which is like it's just a cafe option. So for a quicker breakfast, lighter lunch menu option. Then we've got Craddock's Bar. So everybody loves a bar. And so I even will joke when I'm showing families around, even if the resident doesn't drink anymore, 90% of the time their family still does.
Right.
And so it's having a place to bring your family, bring your friends where they're going to feel comfortable too. And then the third dining option is Signatures Dining.
Okay.
So that is the full service restaurant. I think, something I think is a small touch, but really I think says a lot to the detail of care that our staff takes in the residences, even during COVID, when no one's coming in the building.
Right.
It's just the residents, but they still made the napkins beautiful. They even made little Christmas tree napkins in the shape of Christmas trees. And just to have that, that's kind of a fine dining aspect of Signatures. But yes, there is a wood burning pizza oven. We have a wine wall. If you go to our website, it's in several of the photos, but there's a wine wall. So we have a sommelier on staff. He'll do wine dinners. We hosted a dinner for a neighboring condo building, and it was a 7-course wine and dinner meal.
Really? Wow.
But fortunately, they just had to walk home because I don't think they could have gotten home. But yeah, so there's all different, and he has a real personal story for how he chose each wine to have featured in the community.
That's amazing. Well, with the Four Seasons and the Ritz-Carlton design and collaborating, you've got the best of both worlds, sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. So if a family comes over and they take a tour of the facility and they've seen the terraces and the pizza oven and the beautiful suites and just a wonderful environment, the interior design is amazing. And they decide, I think we've almost made up our mind, but we want to get a test run. For instance, we go shopping, we want to try that dress on before we buy it. Can they do that?
Yes and no. So pre-COVID, people could come, they could spend a day at the community. There is what's called a respite option. That's more of a long-term try before you buy. That's a 30-day minimum stay.
Sure.
But we certainly want prospects and future residents to be able to come and experience a day. And we've had that. Something that I'm incredibly excited to do, because I love the food so much, is, I would have families come and tour, and then we would all have lunch together. Now, COVID restrictions, we're still not allowed to do that yet. So hopefully by the summer, we'll be able to do that again. So there are some ways that we can have residents come. I have a family coming this afternoon, and I'm going to have her meet a couple of the other ladies that live there, just so that she can at least get a feel for who lives there.
Yeah. That's great. Well, it sounds like you guys have some wonderful caregivers too. And do you actually call them caregivers, or?
I call them care partners.
Care partners?
Technically they're caregivers, but, I'm going to say this because I say it to every single family. If anybody has ever met me to come tour, they've heard me say this, but it is a beautiful community. Absolutely. There's no question. But a pretty girl is only fun for so long.
Right.
You got to have the heart and the personality to go along with the exterior. So, from the top, our executive director is incredible about, during COVID, he was in full PPE up on the floors helping the nursing staff. The director of dining, he completely notices the change in our residents' diets, and he'll reach out to the family to get, what are her 10 favorite meals, because she's lost her appetite a bit. So what can we make so I call them care partners just because I feel like they're partnering with, but they are the nurses, they're the clinical team, but we all very much care for the residents that live there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So there are actually nurses that are there 24 hours?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
great.
So I'm talking about all the luxuries of the Preston, and there is a lot. But at the end of the day, we are a licensed, community to provide care for residents. And so there's 24 hours. There are nurses on staff. We've got CNAs on staff 24 hours. We have med techs to help with medication management that are there all the time. So we are fully staffed to provide care. just right around the corner is fire station number 27. So
It is. It's right around the corner.
So, if we've got first responders that can be there within seconds, if there's an urgent need.
Good. Well, I read that you have Naya's. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes.
And that is truly thoughtful and amazing. I'll let you go ahead and explain it because I don't want to mess up the definition on it.
So in our building, so prior to working at the Preston, I had only worked in independent living. And so I'd never worked in a care community before. And I had some reservations, probably as many people do,
Right.
as far as what they expect assisted living to look and feel like. And now that I've been there, and I've been there for about 3 years now, memory care is my favorite thing to show in the whole building.
Yes.
One of the reasons is when you think about a memory care facility, you think about folks who are really segregated because they do need to be in a secured environment just because of the disease.
Right.
But you think of them as really kind of in their own space. But on Thursdays, we have outside entertainment that come in the building. And if anybody were to come during that time, half the people that you see in the audience are from memory care. And so we've gone on outings and we've taken memory care residents with the rest of the residents to the Museum of Arts. And so I love, one, that our memory care residents are so incorporated in the community, but two, the way that they're cared for. So Naya's. So I don't want to say anybody can be a caregiver because I do think you need to have a heart.
Oh, I do too.
To be a care
for
partner.
Sure. Yes.
But to have a care partner who is specifically trained in dementia and Alzheimer's, who understands the disease, I think that's really important when you're talking about caring for memory care residents. And so our Nayas, they go through a dementia training so they can really learn about the disease. And really how to redirect residents if they're having a bad day or, as their disease progresses. So the Nayas, they are really just specifically trained just for our memory care.
Very good. Very good. Well, I bet that helps the family too.
Oh, definitely.
Understand the process and the disease and what their family members going through. And it's very hands-on. So it's not just, oh, we looked at your family member a month ago or 3 months ago, and this is what we saw. They're actually tracking what's happening every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And something that I think is really emotional, and you probably can attest to this with your mom, but it's a really emotional process because I think a lot of families are already going through their grieving. They've lost who their mom, the mom that they know. They've lost who she was, and so the Nayas and the rest of the team, we really try to always remember that this is the disease that we're seeing. This isn't the person we're seeing, and we want to honor the person, not the disease. So
that's great. That's great. And since you mentioned memory care. The Thrive Memory Program, is that something specific for to help reestablish memory, or just to help them focus a little bit more on and retain the memory they do have? How does that work?
So it's a kind of a motto for the entire community. So we're creating a community where residents thrive, and so anything that we notice, we have on-site physical therapy, not just for memory care, but for all the residents. And I think the Thrive concept and program is used most with physical therapy because as we're seeing the residents really kind of improve in their mobility and what they can do, we really highlight it through the Thrive program.
Okay, very good. So everything that you would get at any facility, you have those amenities and services available for like physical therapy, doctor visits. Are you guys doing teledoc during this time with some of the residents? Are they able to do that on FaceTime or Zoom and things like that?
So I'm since I'm the sales girl,
Yes.
I don't get too detailed in the clinical aspects
Yes.
of how the resident, but we have a lot of concierge physicians that
Yes.
come to visit the community.
Oh, very good.
And that was something even during COVID that they were still allowed to continue to do.
To come in and see
Yeah,
the
I mean,
very
because
good.
it's well-being,
Yeah.
you have to have your physician come in. And so we haven't had to do, well, I don't want to say we haven't had to do because, again, I'm not the expert on the clinical
Yes.
piece, but I've seen the doctors continue to come in during COVID.
Very
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Very good. Well, I love the videos you guys have online. So we definitely have to give our audience your information about your website. But one of the testimonials was about a son who had a mother in the facility. And he said that he was very pleased with the precautions you guys took during COVID and that you had basically shut down like a month before the actual mandate.
Yeah. So I was on the beach in Seaside, Florida.
That's a good place to be on the beach. That's
The
for sure.
day that we found out they were closing the schools and that our kids would not go back to school after spring break.
Oh, wow.
And and then I came into work that next day and it was boom, COVID. So from very early on, it was full masks. It was the visitation had to cut, because nobody knew.
Right,
nobody really knew what the repercussions of COVID would be for anybody.
Right.
And so everyone was so. We took such precaution, but it worked because we only had 3 residents total.
Okay.
Test positive. I think the hardest part, though, was there was a time because of the mandate that Judge Jenkins put on Dallas. If you had one positive case, you had to wait 30 days before having a move-in. And then if you had another positive case, the clock started over. But then if you had a staff that tested positive, then it started over.
Again, yeah.
And I would have these families. I mean, there were 2 wives in particular who their husbands were living at home with them and they were needing to move to memory care. And, when you're home with someone who needs assisted living or who needs memory care, I mean, the caregiver fatigue is a real thing.
It is
real. The families who were waiting to move their loved one in, it broke my heart. And so there was a contingency in Judge Jenkins' mandate that if a community has an area designated for COVID cases, if you can have a separate COVID area, you're allowed to have move-ins. So we were fortunate that we had a part of the community that had separate elevator access. It was separately ventilated. Well, all the apartments are separately ventilated, but we were able to have a quarantine space, and that allowed for move-ins. So, but it was hard. I mean, you could really see firsthand because we did have to do social distancing. We did have to do isolation with some of the residents. I mean, so it was hard to see. I mean, I sell against living in your home every single day because isolation, we're not meant to live alone.
No, we're not.
Meant to live together.
Right.
And so to see that even in a community setting, it made the reality of that statement so present. But yeah, we kept the community incredibly safe. Even now, some of the restrictions have lifted. We, can have visitation again. But I tell you what, that place you could eat off of the floor if you wanted to. It gets cleaned all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. I mean, and you mentioned caregiver fatigue, and I know a lot of our audience has experienced that. I know I did too with my mom, and because you want to do everything you can do, but there's just only so much you can give, and only so much time, and to do that effectively. So you do need help, and I had to kind of learn that, and I wrote about that in my book. But it's great that you guys have enough staff and your understanding of the community, what they're going through as they're trying to move in or seeking out your program, your residency. So if a family, they've looked at it, they've toured, And like many of us, before a move, for decades, you've accumulated a lot of stuff. And for any person in any season of their lives, a move is just a huge task. So can you guys help with that for a family if they're thinking about, downsizing or just moving on to another season in their life? How do they handle that big move?
Yes. So we have, her name is Kelly. She's like a little angel. She'll just fly into your home, move everything. And so she's on a staff of the Preston, but we just partner with her, and
Okay.
she has moved so many families. She herself has personal experience with this, and so she can help with that piece of it. She
Okay.
can help, and some families need to get new things, and so she
Right.
can help with that too. I am always really hesitant to compare our residents to the experience that you have as a parent with children, because I say it with all the respect in the world
Right.
to the resident, but I mean, I'm a mom.
Right.
I have 2 young kids. I have parent fatigue.
Yes.
And if I had, in this stage of life, and I have my dad's had several surgeries. He's older. He's in Nashville. And so, gosh, if I had to try to move him
Yeah.
with everything that I have in my life, I mean, it's a lot. And so we have Kelly, who helps with kind of the logistical piece. And then I have an amazing girl that works for me, Tommy.
Okay.
She's our moving coordinator. And so she kind of takes the first half of the train, and then Kelly takes the rest of the train. But we
wonderful.
really, help families make a train, because it's a big move.
It is.
On all fronts. So we've got a great team to help.
Great. Well, how do you, I've been to many facilities, and some of them will have the families bring something from their home to have that continuity, and they make them feel like they're still at home and something familiar, especially in the assisted living and the memory care, and perhaps in the bridge as well. Do you have designers that work with the family or help them make it feel like a home for them?
So really, I'm kind of refer back to Kelly on that.
Yes.
We encourage families, especially if there's some level of cognitive decline. It's
Right.
really important to bring things that are familiar from home. But sometimes people want a refreshed style. And so
Yes.
Kelly can absolutely help with space planning,
Okay.
design, just interior design. I helped her during a move, and I made the bed for a lady moving in, and the bed wasn't made well enough. And so Kelly came back and turned the comforter down and fluffed all the pillows. So she is attention to detail.
Well, I totally can relate to that. My mom that bed has to be made perfectly,
Yeah.
and those sheets have to be crisp. And so my morning caregivers, they understand that, and it has to be made just, I almost say, bounce a quarter off that bed. It's got to be just perfect.
Yeah.
So that's great. You guys have that attention to detail, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, are there any closing thoughts you'd like to leave with our audience?
I would just say, I'm really thankful for my experience coming from independent living into this. I would just say, I think the idea of assisted living, when you think about that, most people, I think of nursing homes.
Right.
The Preston is not a nursing home. And not even just us. There are different styles of communities everywhere in the Metroplex. I mean, if
Right.
you live anywhere in the Metroplex, you are so fortunate because you have so many options to
That's so
choose
true.
from.
Yes.
So I guess my closing thought would be, there's a commercial that would come on. It's probably still on even now. But the sentence in the commercial says, "Because we promised to keep mom home." And I would just encourage families to really think of how your spouse or your parent how they lived before their
Mm.
needs changed. And they probably, had coworkers, had people they went to church with, they
Right.
had, their neighbors. And so living at home can be a very isolating experience. And so assisted living is not a scary thing. If anything, it gives the residents even more independence, where they can, spend their literal energy and their abilities on things that they want to do,
Right.
and have someone there to help with the things that they just need a little assistance
Just
with.
a little assistance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
assisted living, it's come a long way.
It has.
And the Preston specifically looks and feels like independent living, but has the added benefits of assisted living.
And that's what we want our audience to know, that it has come a long way. Like the old commercial, we've come a long way, baby.
Yes.
Look, facilities and residential communities for seniors have come a long way. And I'm glad you guys are at the forefront of that.
Yeah.
It's just been, that's wonderful. So if they're, if a family wants to get in contact with you and maybe tour the Preston of Park Cities, what do they do?
Call me.
Call you? Okay. Just give you a call.
So will you put I don't have the website.
Do you have the
memorized.
website? Okay, we can put it up for you. We'll put that up.
I'm pretty sure it's parkcities.watermarkcommunities.com.
Okay.
But the website is a beautiful website. You can see photos of the community. There's even the brochure there on the community. You'll meet with me to come tour. I think you can see I'm the least pushy salesperson that you will encounter. I just really want to be there to help families go through the journey.
Well, Melissa, I can tell you have a heart for this. I mean, you're just so genuine and so real. And that makes me just feel great. I mean, I'm sure all the residents feel the same way about it, because you don't want to encounter someone who's just trying to push something off on you and make a family feel like they're just another number in the process.
It is an emotional journey.
It is.
Sure.
It is. It can be.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on our show.
Thank you for having me. This was a first, so thank you.
Yes, this has been fun. Don't forget to like us on social media and subscribe to our channel. And also, we'd like for you to check on a senior, check on an elder, and it just might brighten your day. Thanks for having us.